And this is the climactic conclusion to this little bit of literature review we've done here. Just a slathering, just a beginning, just a foreshadowing of future reviews to look at for you. This article was sent to me by a friend, and it's from the Journal of American Academy of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. It's relatively recent, 2011. Clinical Review of Current Concepts, Kinetic Chains. A review of the concept and its clinical applications by somebody MD and somebody else MD. So let's take a look at some things on the first page. I read this and I thought during the first paragraph or two, oh my gosh, somebody finally figured it out. And you know why I thought that? Because the first thing they recite, German engineering scientist, Rouleau. I was like, oh my God, finally there's hope for our rehab/exercise world. Talks about the link concept, the book, Kinematics of Machinery. All this stuff is so great. They bring up, as proposed by Rouleau, blah, 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 blah. If both ends of the system are fixed, oh my God, this is great. If both ends of the system are fixed such that no movement can occur at either end, and that started making me worry. No movement of what can occur? The joints or the ends aren't floppy? Well, let's see. Well, the application of an external force causes each segment to receive and transfer force to the adjacent segment, generating a chain reaction. That was disturbing. Movement at any joint will produce a predictable movement at all the other joints in the chain. I'm like, man, this has possibilities. Saying all the right words. Reading sources that apparently nobody else really read. Even going back to, Steinler. I cannot find in here where he read or studied Rouleau. And I'm not saying he didn't. I can't find it, and I haven't read every page of this. I don't see any references really anywhere in the back. There's a few on individual pages. But anyway, look at that again. Both ends have to be fixed. Fixed is a bad word. Fixed is a bad word. Both ends closed. Both ends closed. Fixed sounds like it's immobile. And that leads people to believe the thing can't move. And that is not the case at all. Fixed is a problem. No movement can occur at either end. That's not true. Oh, I dropped. Look. Every part of this is mobile. This is now an end, if you will. It's just not floppy. It's not free. And if we close one end, right? You remember all that stuff. Predictable movement at all other joints. If you move one joint, but that word fixed. So now we move on down, and he starts to quote Steinler. There's the complex motor unit thing again. The kinetic chain concept is open or closed. So he categorized this according to this guy, even though Rouleau did a fine job, depending upon the loading of the terminal segment. The terminal segment. So is the terminal segment an ankle, or is the terminal segment a foot? Why? If you restrain an ankle, you keep it from moving. If you restrain a foot, it doesn't slide around on the ground. Those are not the same thing. So if I take this and I hold this joint still, right, I can't move this because what happens here affects all this. But if I hold this still, it's a different thing. Really, they don't apparently have a lot of mechanical aptitude. They're just kind of repeating things we've seen and things we've read already. And I'm wondering now what's going to happen next. Well, there's a picture that has become somewhat popular in the past decade as representative of open and closed. And it looks more like an engineering picture, although it's not like these. Remember I showed you in the engineering books that there were pictures very much like this, and then the five joint one and the 3 joint one. So what they do is they say, and at the beginning I'm like, well, is this a joint, and this a joint, and this a joint? Or is this also a joint? Or what is this a joint? And this is a different color joint, so does this joint not move? I don't know what any of this means. Well, later we see that they all end up moving. But what they do is they're showing a little motor or an actuator, or in our bodies it would be a muscle. And over here in this open chain, one thing can move. So that's what they show us. They literally show us 1, 2, 3, 4 joints. 1, 2, 3, 4 joints in an open chain. But how many did they move? 1. Okay. What's holding the others? Only one thing moved. You know what was much more likely to happen in reality, and this is the problem I have with illustrations. If I built this thing out of this, you know what would happen? That. Because if I only had one actuator, that's the only one I could control. Everything else would just fall. There would be no way to control that. That's an open chain for you. So, if we take this open chain, what they do here in a minute is they show us, here's an open chain exercise. Now here's what's really funny. 1, 2, 3, 4 joints, and there's their example of an open chain exercise. How do you get that out of this? This, they literally, with probably 20 years of school between the two of them, did nothing but quote a bunch of references, to their credit, going clear back to Rouleau, and in the end, gave us the same picture, yet with a diagram that does not represent, those have nothing to do with each other. I was completely dumbfounded. And if you wonder why, so many, how could everybody be wrong? We've talked about this in lots of subjects. How could across decades everybody be so far off? What on earth makes me so arrogant to think I'm right? Because, well, number one, none of it's mine. I'm simply offering an unbiased perspective of mechanical truth. And this is the best we get from our best minds in the medical, rehab, and exercise world. This is their example of an open chain exercise. I literally don't get it. Now here's a closed chain for them. Can you see that? All they did was take this same thing and they put something on the top. And what they showed was, see, I told you they could all move. What they showed was, in this thing, when I moved this, these could all move too. What was holding them still in the other one? There was nothing holding them still. The whole thing would have collapsed, right? So when this straightened this out, instead of this flopping over like in the other one, this straightened out. This couldn't move over the top. There's two problems with this. Number one, it's still not a closed chain. I'm sorry, but it's not. This could be, you could go, well, yeah, it is. It's closed at each end. Where's the loop? Now you could infer a loop. You could go, well, you know, it's there. But I got to tell you, I could also interpret this as that's a bar sitting on top. That's a weight sitting on top. The closure is required like this. There is a loop now. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints. It is an unconstrained closed chain. There is no way around this. Absolutely no other way to look at this. And I'm sorry, but if we sit and go, well, you know what they mean. No, I don't, because they prove they don't know what they mean. And I can't give when it comes to mechanical principles because there's no wiggle room. And the sad thing is, as much as these are objective truths, people will not shift gears. For till the day I die and for centuries beyond, if anybody cares about this subject anymore, they will still be giving the wrong examples. And because of that, they won't actually understand the real benefits of open and the real benefits of closed. They won't understand that almost everything we do in the gym is open, including squats. So look, here's their example. This is in that article, right? This right here. This is their example of a closed chain. So there's this. Work our way up. Wait a minute. Where's the closure? Where's the closure? Here's what we got. An open kinetic chain system. This is back to our original picture, but with some arms sticking out. I guess I can make a head sticking out also. Guys, how could you present this as closed without closure? How could you present this as open and present this as this is this? Their open chain picture is a squat. They proved it themselves and go on to call this literally all these years of school, whatever authority they have, the editors of this journal, the people who take a look at it and go, this is valid for our journal. This is the quality information for our journal. They already decided that a squat was closed, even though their own diagrams proved it wasn't. Represented, shouldn't say proved, represented that it wasn't. It's literally like for so long, we've believed that 1 + 1 = 3. That even when you go 1 + 1 is 3. That's literally what they just did. Well, metaphorically. I know I get excessively excited about this. Disturbed, frustrated. But it's so painfully obvious. And that really intelligent people can't go, yep, I'm shifting gears. I want to be on top of these things. We promote the idea that we're scientific, evidence-based practice, all this stuff, and we are blatantly, obviously, objectively, no way around it, wrong about this subject. But it's tough to turn the Titanic. It starts with doing it in our own minds. It starts with letting go of our ego, stop being attached to these things that we think make us smart, when in fact they make us really appear stupid.